Well, President Buhari has signed the Business Facilitation Act into law, and a lot of discussions around this, how it can help straighten up businesses and, of course, help move businesses forward. The Ease of Doing Business initiative, PEBEC, came up to say that this has really become a game changer in all that they've been carrying out with regards to making the environment more conducive for running businesses. But let's talk about this and, of course, get to understand the meaning of all of this. And I introduced him earlier. He is a partner and head of transfer pricing at an advisory at PEDABO Professional Services, Mr. Fidelis Chukwu. Thank you so much for your time. It's good to have you. Happy Easter to you.
Thank you, Tolu.
Yes, let's start with the president recently signing this. What's it all about? Let's talk more about what this act is all about.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, since the session of this administration, the president set up the Presidential Enabling a Business Environment Council, which is headed by Professor Yemi Osinbajo. And that council, they've been doing a whole lot to address challenges around the ease of doing businesses in Nigeria. And there's been some forms of reforms, some presidential orders. Here and there, government have been doing a whole lot. But then there are laws that are guiding some of all those things. And of course, there are challenges, and these challenges will always come up because of the changes in our business environment. Every day we have a lot of things coming up. So government have been doing a whole lot. But then there are laws, like I mentioned, and government just want to see a way to align some of all these government initiatives, to align them with the different laws that address all those issues. So that is why government came up with this Business Facilitation Miscellaneous Provision Act. That act specifically made changes to provisions in 20 different laws. When we look at our environment, there are so many laws that at times you don't even know that some of those laws actually exist. So the Business Facilitation Act is just to give effect to some of the government policies around the ease of doing business in Nigeria. And the act basically, like I've mentioned, is to give effect to those changes that government have been introduced. One, and to also ensure that the business environment in Nigeria is friendly and, of course, in line with international best practice. Again, is to also ensure that the ease of doing business that government has been talking about that is more of reality than might. Not just talking about it. Government just want to really see that, yes, we want to provide the enabling environment for businesses. We want SMEs to thrive. We want to remove complications, a whole lot of bureaucracy around businesses in Nigeria. So government just want to remove all that. And government then look at specific laws and made amendment to specific provisions in those laws that has to do with businesses in Nigeria. So that's just the summary of what this Business Facilitation Miscellaneous Provision is all about.
For me, I see Dr. Jumoke Oduwole, a friend of the house. She's been doing a lot concerning PEBEC and the ease of doing business. But I will ask you that, what are the challenges of the ease of doing business in Nigeria, your understanding of that?
Yeah, there are challenges, really. There are challenges because if you look at, like I mentioned, the PEBEC, which is headed by Professor Yemi Osinbajo, they've been doing a whole lot. But with all that they've been doing, they've not really, they can't really one day address those issues holistically, because as you're addressing one issue, remember the changes in business environment, changes that are coming up. We have digital issues, we have all that. So a lot of issues continue to come up. One of the problems we have with the businesses in Nigeria really is that there is issue of transparency. Over the years, you see businesses, you see taxpayers, everybody talk about government not being transparent. You have something to get from government, but there is no clarity. You don't even know what exactly you need to do to get those things done. You need license to run your business. You don't know how much fee you have to pay. You get to the MDA that's supposed to process those approvals for you. You get different kind of information. There is no timeline as to when should government respond to you. You make an application. it's expected that there should be timeline to say that, oh, upon your application within so number of days, you should be able to get response from government whether they are giving you consent or not. We don't have that. That's a problem. We also have this issue of multiple agencies of government dealing on the same issue. You need to get something from government today, you get to one office, they tell you, oh, you need this, you need that. Within the same agencies or government, you are subjected to a whole lot of stress that you need to be getting different kind of approvals from the same ministry. You know, you remember when the PEDABO initiative, when the issue with the Port Authority in Lagos due to the congestion and all that, the Vice President issued an order because of the multiple agencies that we have that are operating within the port. Some of them you don't even know that they exist, right? The Vice President at that time said that, see, all these multiple agencies, he streamlined them to just 8, that they only want 8 agencies to be operating within the port. All those things are challenges, you know, and all these things, in one way or the other, drag businesses, right? We also have this issue of small businesses. You know, people have talked about small businesses being the engine room of the economy. But then when you then subject these small businesses to multiple regulatory issues, the same thing you expect big companies, a multinational to do, you're expecting a micro company that is just struggling to even survive, you expect them to do the same compliance. So all those things are really issue. But, you know, like I said, there is no single law that will address all these challenges. But governments, from time to time, we need to be reviewing all these laws to make sure that from time to time they come in tandem with the...
Now, for me, we have laws, and we have different laws, acts, and all of this. Many will say all is for the ease of doing business. But in your understanding, can you highlight the notable feats in this Facilitation Act for you, this newly signed one?
Yes, thank you. You know, I've mentioned the fact that this Business Facilitation Miscellaneous Provision Act actually made changes to 20 different laws, starting from Company and Allied Matters Act, talks about Industrial Training Fund, Housing Fund, Immigration Act, Nigeria Export Promotion Council Act, Nigeria Investment, and so many other provisions. So the law made a whole lot of changes. And one of the things that this law tried to address specifically is the issue of transparency, right? The law talked about issue of transparency in the sense that one of the challenges that people have been facing really is that there is no clarity when you are dealing with government. There is really no clarity, and there's supposed to be specific rule that will say that if you need this from government, once you meet this criteria A, B, C, D, your approval should be granted. But we don't have that. And I'll give you a clear example really about that. You know, before now, when taxpayer apply for tax clearance, you see the tax authority coming up with all sorts of issues. Oh, we are reviewing your records. You have this issue. In fact, they'll be doing that right from the day you apply from the tax clearance, right? But from 2020, Federal Inland Revenue Service tried to automate the system by employing what they call the tax promas. And through that tax promas, you can then file all your tax returns, make all your payments. And if you have issues, you'll be seeing it. So from that point, you know all the things you need to do for you to get a tax clearance certificate. Everything is there. If you have issue that will make you not to get your tax clearance certificate, at the point of application, you will see it on that platform. So every taxpayer at that point then know that, oh, this is what I need to do to get my tax clearance. Yes. And immediately that was put in place, you can get your tax clearance certificate within just a minute. And before then, there's something that you can process tax clearance certificate from January to December, and you still not get it. So that provides a whole lot of clarity instead that people now know this is what I need to do. So that is one thing that this act has tried to do by providing a form of transparency to then mandate agencies or government to be more transparent right? For all their products, all the things, approvals, licenses that they grant to businesses, the law mandate them to issue like requirements for obtaining those approvals. And those requirements will include you must list out all the documents that you will need to get those approvals. You must mention the fees. You must give a timeline to say that from the date of application for this license, the agency is mandated to respond within a period of 2 weeks, 3 weeks, that there must be a clear rule on that. There must be transparency. So that if I want to apply for license today, I should know that if I make my application today, government is expected to get back to me in 2 weeks' time. So I know what I'm expecting.
Yeah.
Right? So this act has made it mandatory that such must be made available. And it must be published. It must be put on the website of those ministries so that everybody can see it clearly. And again, one of the things that the act has done is to say that, see, when there is conflict between what is published and what is within that system, then what is published by that agency will be the acceptable guideline for that particular process, right? So there is nothing like you importing any other requirement after that business has applied for that particular approval, so which is a very good one. Another thing that this act has also done is to introduce what is called a one government system, to say that if I need an approval today from, say, NCC, and then NCC will require some form of other verification from other related agencies, I don't need to start running around all those agencies. NCC should be able to talk to sister agencies to obtain all the relevant information that they need to do that, which is very laudable. Again, the Act also make provision for port authority to say that there should be a single interface for businesses, right? Like I mentioned earlier, you go to port today, you see agencies, some of them you don't even know that they exist. You see them scatter all over the places. But what this act has done now is to say that there must be a single interface, so that if I have anything to do at the port today, I should go to a single desk and meet all the people that I need to meet, and everything that I need to do, I should do it on that desk and go away. Not that I meet Nigeria Customs here, immediately I'm leaving that desk.
Going to the
the next post, I'm meeting immigration. After settling with immigration, the next move again, I'm meeting the NDLA. So this law says that there must be a single...
like harmonizing all of this.
They should harmonize everything, exactly, which is very laudable. Another thing to also help businesses is, again, this issue of compliance requirements, that you see different compliance issues that even small businesses are expected to comply with. We have like the issue of industrial training fund, which there is no threshold before now, or the threshold is almost not applicable, which says that once you have 5 employees or your turnover is up to 50 million, you have to be contributing a 1% of your annual staff cost to that training fund, which whether is functional or not is a discussion for another time. You know. But now this act has practically removed small businesses from that particular compliance obligation by saying that if you don't have up to 25 employees, you are not expected to comply with that provision, which is also a very good point, right? And we have an issue relating to, of course, we are familiar with that since COVID-19, a lot of businesses have moved into virtual meetings, digitalizing almost all their operations. So this act has also given some kind of life to that arrangement by now allowing companies to have their AGM virtually. You don't need to spend a whole lot of millions to organize it.
To organize AGM.
You can do that virtually. And all that. So there are a lot of...
There's a lot in it. But let's move on, because time is not always our friend or television. But let's talk about impact on SMEs. I'm very interested in that. And also, do you think this will address the challenges that we face? That's around the ease of doing business in the country, this act.
Yeah, thank you. If you look at SMEs really, I mentioned earlier that SMEs, they are seen as the engine room of development in every country, which means you really need to pay attention to that industry, right? And looking at this act, really, there are some laudable provisions in the act that you can say that we have direct impact on SMEs. Before now, if you look at even taxes paid by companies in Nigeria and levies, you have companies paying as much as 18 different types of levies, taxes, and all that. But we've now seen a situation where government are beginning to give some kind of concession to SMEs. And when we also look at this Business Facilitation Miscellaneous Provision Act, you see some provisions there. For instance, I've mentioned issue relating to Industrial Training Fund. Yes. That small businesses, if you have employees of less than 25, you are not expected to make contribution to that again, which is a big relief to SMEs, right? We also have things like NHF, for instance, National Housing Fund. Before now, see, when we look at issues that affect businesses, really, at times there are some issues that are not affecting them directly, but indirectly.
I agree,
right? Because even though they are not like making payments or paying anything to government on certain things, but when you then put that compliance burden that they need to act as your agent, right? That is a burden. One way or the other, there is a cost attached to it. So like this NHF now, this act has made it voluntary for private companies, in the sense that you may opt to do it if you like, and you may decide not to do it. Again, you know, sometimes last year there was this issue around the certificate of acceptance for businesses, that companies has to certify their assets with the inspectorate division. You know, that issue generated a lot of concerns everywhere. That the threshold for this are small businesses that will buy assets of less than 1 million, 2 million. Do you expect that they all comply with this same provision? That concern was there that time, that this is not supposed to affect small businesses. It's supposed to really focus on a big businesses. But this act has now provide like a larger threshold for that particular compliance requirement, which before now it used to be 20,000, that once you have an asset of 20,000, you require that approval. But this act has moved that compliance, now the threshold, to 5 million, which means a whole lot of small businesses may not really need to bother about that. So, which is also a very laudable thing that government has done. And again, this issue of transparency, like I mentioned, is very, very key, even to small businesses, because for small business, you then know that, oh, this is what I need for my business, right, to be able to operate efficiently and the way I want. And you have all that listed out so that you can always go to the website and you will access that information, which is very good. As to whether this particular act will address the challenges, you see, our problem really over time has not been about making laws, it's about implementation of those laws, right? If all the provisions in this Business Facilitation Act, if they are followed, if government actually pay attention to monitoring the compliance, right, I believe that it's going to go a whole long way, especially the part that has to do with transparency, right? Because one of the major problems that businesses face in Nigeria is the fact that you spend a whole lot of time chasing what you should ordinarily get within a few days. You spend a whole lot of time chasing all those things. But with this now, we expect that the time that people will be spending in getting approvals, in getting anything they need from government and all that, they should spend less time. And there is now a kind of clarity. It's no more about this is the person I'm dealing with. I need to know somebody. I need to so that they can waive some things or adjust it. Now, if you know that this is what I need to do. And one funny thing, let me just mention, is the fact that the law actually provides for, if you are supposed to respond to a company based on their request or application, if you don't give response within that number of days, that approval deemed granted automatically. right? So that puts a burden on the government now
to respond,
to
right?
do their own work.
To do their own needful.
You understand? So I expect that is going to change a whole lot of things, really, if fully implemented.
We'll follow up on you and make sure that we monitor the implementation and how this impacts business. But I must thank you, Mr. Fidelis Chukwu. That's what time can take. I've been speaking to partner. He's also the head of transfer pricing and advisory. He's with PEDABO Professional Services. Thank you so much. Have a great Easter.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.